Hey everybody, Tracy Brown here. So I'll be a couple things just gonna disclaim right off the top on this video. Is I'm not feeling that well today. I've got a little bit of a flu-ish thing happening, so a little headachy, a little nausea. So we'll see how well this video goes. If I do the whole thing live, but I'm looking like I'm like this, it's because I probably am. So, but I had to do this video today. And that's the second disclaimer, is I've been doing this video off for about not 2 weeks, a week. I've wanted to, but honestly I've just felt too emotional about it. So the second disclaimer is that this video, I was requested to do this video. And so typically I just work on this stuff with my clients. This video is not in reaction to anything online and anybody that I know who has ever seen, on my online friendships and any groups. This video is not related to anybody there, even though, over the course of, 20 years when I started my own, my recovery 20-something years ago, in my 12-year career, I hear this stuff on a weekly basis of how somebody goes to the doctor, or they're with their therapist and something happens, or a different dietitian and something happens. So my other disclaimers are, this isn't picking on any one profession. But it happened to be a therapist this happened with, so that's the story. But I've heard just as equal, if not more, accounts. Hi Alexandra, thanks for showing up live. I really appreciate that. And please, if you feel like this video is helpful, please share it. Because I think that people need to hear this. And if you haven't watched the first little bit, I might cry. I'm not sure. And I've never done that on a video before. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, so this video is dedicated to a client who asked me to do it because she wants to watch it to remind herself of her own sovereignty and to remind herself that she doesn't do anything wrong. And so basically, my client who's been in recovery for a while, and you might relate to this, that is broken, I can't tell you how many rules around good food, bad food, and about getting her needs met, and purchasing the food that she really wants, and taking the time to cook for herself the food that she really wants, and stop binging on things that she hates to punish herself. It goes on and on and on. And even having some good forgiveness for herself if she purges, or whatever happens. And I've been seeing her for a while, and has worked very hard, and she can hear my voice a little bit around. There's no good or bad food. There's just body feedback. Anyway, so she actually talks to her eating disorder therapist about her. They were talking about her intake for some reason, and which is totally fine. And the therapist asked, he was a eating disorder therapist, gosh, your diet's, I can't believe that you're trying to gain, you're trying to get renourished on a diet that's so unhealthy. And my client just about lost it in terms of any level of, almost all the trust that she's built up in herself in this process for years. It was so close to being disintegrated. This client has worked years on some really, really hard stuff for her. And to have been told that some of the basically higher fat items that she's been adding, that she desperately needs, that, aren't on the, basically the bottom line is, it wasn't like a fruit, a vegetable, or a whole grain. Essentially, this is the gist of what is supposed to be healthy or not, according, I guess, to this therapist, not sure, who treats eating disorders. That she, should be eating to try to get renourished. And, I had to keep my composure in the session after that to help my client keep her, groundedness and trust in herself and trust in the process. And I say this because, you guys, we deserve better. Basically, my client's inner, she shut down. And all she could repeat over and over and over again. I know Alexandra, my client knows that, I know that. And this has happened before. It's not the first time I've ever dealt with this, but this one was so honestly egregious for the situation and for how hard, everything this therapist actually already kind of knows this client has worked through. It was almost such a it showed the blind spot so badly that that's why I'm talking about it today. Is that and by request of my client, I've never done this before. If I actually had a client tell me, please make a video so I can watch this, so I can hear this message over and over again, because I'm so shook. I'm so shaken about this. And and this is the thing is that they have a good relationship, and that's why it's so devastating. And so maybe no other therapist or doctors or dietitians hear this who don't treat eating disorders or do treat eating disorders, but I want to let you know my client had all this happen, and she totally went into this this shutdown mode where just frozen, could barely speak. All she could say is, well, there are not really any good or bad foods, and that's all she could do the rest of the session. And she tried to take the best out of it, and she, out of her own will and out of her own strength, and honestly just flat out desire to get better, was like, I know I've got to talk about this. I can't hold this in. I can't listen to this voice in my head. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it wrong. I'm bad. This is, this person who is kind of basically in a position of, she believes authority over her, which is something else I want to talk about for us professionals, is, when we're working with people, and if anyone's vulnerable about their food or their body or their weight, if you don't have your stuff cleaned up with food or weight, and you're working with people who are struggling with their weight or their bodies, you're going to do damage. And I don't mean to be cruel or harsh about it, but that's just the bottom line. If you don't have your relationship with food cleaned up and healed, and you're not fat phobic, and you don't have to be perfect, but you got to know that that's a blind spot at the very least. If there's any healthism, the potential to screw over your client is really big. And again, I'm not giving myself credit for my client not going off and throwing away all of the food that she had at home that wasn't the healthy food. I give her all the credit. I give her the credit because she's hung in there with me long enough to know probably what I was going to say, and then basically lean on, well, what's been the most life affirming for her, believing in good food, bad food, and has that caused her to suffer less, or has giving yourself some opportunities to eat some foods, even if she feels bad about it, has that actually harmed her? And she's basically stuck with well, I made more progress eating a bigger variety of food than not, and that's what kept her from letting go. And so I just it's really important. If you're not a professional, I want you to hear how I'm not at all being that honestly that emotional or even that passionate about this, because the way I was last week, I was literally freaking out. And it's not because this isn't new, but I'm just freaking over it. I'm so frustrated. And so I'm always telling my clients, if you're not getting a health professional, physical health, mental health, if it's making you feel shamed or stigmatized, instead of actually knowing your full experience and your full truth, if that's happening, you have got two options, and you got to make a decision quickly. Is educate them. If you otherwise have a really good relationship with them and you feel like that's salvageable, do it. Otherwise, it's get out. Find somebody else. Even if it costs more but you go less, or even if you have to do it online, do what you got to do, because do no harm is supposed to be real. You're not supposed to be worried about if your therapist is going to judge your food. You're not supposed to be going to the dietitian and worried about what you're and some of it might be projection, but you're not supposed your eating disorder or non-diet intuitive dietitian is supposed to be judging your food intake. That's just not ever what's supposed to happen. They're supposed to help you be curious about it and your body feedback and what's life affirming for you. But if you are feeling oh my gosh, I think I would gain weight and they're going to judge that, and that ends up being true or whatever, if they're nervous about your weight changing, going up, whatever, big problem. So I need you to trust your gut about that. I need you to trust your gut that something doesn't feel right or that's not okay, and work it out with them or get out, because you're there to get compassionate, non-diet support, not healthism, not fat phobia, regardless of your body size, regardless of the fact that if you can't, if they think it would be best to move your body for stress management or whatever it is, but that's too traumatizing for you, or they don't really get why that would be. And if you're telling your story and that's not working, then you are entitled to get the kind of care that best moves you forward. So I got through that. I didn't know if I would, because I was nervous before I did this, and I love doing videos. I'm never nervous, but I want to speak truth, and I want people to know that if you're with professionals that are causing you to feel like I'm just afraid that like they're gonna judge my food, then we gotta change that. Secondly, if you're a professional and you really want to work with disordered eating or people who are concerned about their weight, and there's any kind of we just can't do that. You can't do that. You got to clean up your worries about people's weight and their food. And it doesn't mean you can't be a good practitioner, but you've got to look at your blind spots around any healthism or your worries about what their weight is and what you think means about you and how you're treating them. So, rant over. If this is helpful for somebody, please, like it, share it, whatever. If you're my person, this is for you. And know that you deserve to eat the food that you need to eat in your healing process. And if that changes in 6 months, that's because you needed to change it for yourself. Not because some other professional, even me, told you should be doing that. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Everybody, you're in my heart. You deserve to have good care, non-diet, trauma-informed, body accepting care. All right, well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you all really soon. Bye.